Maybe say about one. Okay, welcome everybody, and many thanks for turning up on this fresh Wednesday morning. As I said, it's planning your strategy for success, which is a North Northamptonshire initiative where we're helping businesses. I will be shortly introducing Richard Liverman, who will be introducing our main speaker. As always, like I said, this is recorded and available on the website at a later date. Q&A will be after the main talk. People online, if you want to put it in the chat, we will address it as it comes through at the appropriate time. First of all, I'd like to introduce Richard Liverman, who's one of our professional mentors, who would like to say a few words and introduce our main speaker. Richard, thanks very much.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I've been looking forward to this session since it's been booked in, and I'm delighted to welcome Graham Ravenscroft to speak today. Graham is one of the reasons that I became a coach and mentor. He's the person that trained me, inspired me, and I'd like to think that I'm in good company because he's also worked with the likes of Jessica Ennis and Jonathan Broom-Edward. Luckily, I don't do the high jump, that would be a little awkward, but I do coaching and mentoring, and a lot of my skills, a lot of my passion were fostered by Graham, and he's somebody that has really inspired me, and I hope that his words and his thinking can inspire you all today. So it's my great honour and with pride, I'd like to introduce Graham to speak to you today.
Man, very good. Cheers. Well, where's your mum when you get an intro like that? Listen, thank you very much, and it's a great pleasure to speak to everybody in this room and of course the virtual room as well, and share a little bit about myself, which I hope will inspire you in some way and give you some pretty useful tools. The background then, I guess, let me just click on there. Is that click the slide, my friend? There we go. So, brilliant. Thank you very much. So that's a little bit about me. Allow me to introduce myself properly then. So it's been a kind of I suppose, quite a diverse background and learning to get to this point today. The day job for 30 years was fire and rescue service, so frontline operational firefighter, and then I started my kind of leadership journey in that very dynamic world of fire and rescue, I guess, and obviously my coaching ran through that in terms of developing the people and the skills and bringing teams together. During the whole time that I was in the fire service, in fact, before that, through a set of circumstances way back as a youngster, it's hard to imagine now, but I was an international athlete, right? So just humour that thought. But by pure circumstance, my coach became ill. And I was thrust at 20 years old into taking care of my own squad. So it was in the world of sport that I started the coaching journey, as many business coaches do, I guess. But this just became a passion, a way of life, everything, and of course, a profession eventually. I've been very fortunate in the world of athletics. I spent kind of 36 years in there, and during that time, I worked with some incredibly talented people. As I developed my own coaching skills, we had people at every major global championships and medal at every global championships. Much to my kind of long-suffering wife's dismay, bless her, 30 years yesterday, by the way. So we're still there. I was one of those people as well that used to flit off all over the world. And was responsible for creating a high-performance environment for people to perform. And we had a gold medal in Tokyo, by the way. I just dropped that out there. It doesn't matter. Yeah, about 20 years ago is the final bit of the story to kind of put it in perspective. A wise person suggested that I kind of take my coaching into the world of business, of which I kind of smiled, felt a bit, really? Why would that be? You know, we squirt water, we go to traffic accidents, I teach people to jump high. But I'm incredibly grateful. So here I stand here now, I guess for the real reasons. 20 years of experience, now doing some, literally, I think last year was 121 separate senior business leadership coaching sessions across all businesses, from global banking to pharmaceutical to production to automotive. So C-suite and middle managers at every single level. And then about just over a year ago, as we sit here with business owners doing their thing all over the place, I decided to stop subcontracting and go on my own. I had to do this. I had to see if all the things that I've helped business owners do and the coaching of teams and businesses would really work. It was just part of the deal. And so there it came. So and I've got the lady in the room there, which is Theresa Wright. So we are the co-founders and directors of Beyond the Podium. Beyond the Podium, what do we do? If you think about that background, what we do is we help business leaders to basically explore, achieve and sustain high performance. And this idea of high performance is something that is very passionate to me. You know, when you think about dealing with a life-saving sort of scenario, bringing it to a safe conclusion, or, you know, winning in a medal at major championships, that for me is high performance. So I have this kind of quite a rigid, if you like, and maybe Theresa would say not so flexible version of what I think high performance looks like. So what can I share from that experience? So I thought kind of long and hard about this. One thing I think you have to do when you're in this business is to be able to stand out from a crowd of swamped coaches and all the rest of it. So what I did is I started to look back at the experience that I just talked about and kind of make some semblance of my process. What was the process that I used? What can I share with people that says, how do I look at myself, and actually what tool can I give people to look to develop themselves and the people around them? So that's kind of what I want to share today. So we came up with this acronym, which says Fireproof. And can you only imagine my delight? Yes, you know where I'm going with this. When I kind of started to jot stuff down and put it into words, and I came up with the word fire, I was like off the scale. I rang Theresa and said, you are not going to believe this. It says fire. So there's absolutely no pun intended. And it'll make sense in a moment. But as a performance coach, all right, what we are unapologetically is change managers. All right, we're conflict creators. It's my job to create conflict in your thinking. Change fundamentally will happen as a direct consequence to difference in your thinking. As Stephen Covey, of course, Speed of Trust, says, progress happens when difference collides. And that's my job. My job is to create conflict in your thinking. So fundamentally as well, we are managers of change. The other thing that top coaches should be is great strategic planners. And this is how this was born. So I want to talk you through basically a process that I believe will work for you and I hope you can use to your advantage. So copyrighted in 2023, and of course we trademarked it with the help of Theresa as a model that underpins how we train businesses right now, of course, last year too. So the first stage of any performance development is this. This is what coaches do, right? We frame the situation, but what does framing our situation mean? If somebody is going to change or do something different or differently, the very first thing they have to be sure of is the now. They have to have this unquestionable, acute understanding of what now looks like. So it's about self-awareness. That's self-awareness in people, self-awareness in your business, self-awareness in the things that are impacting your business. Hope that makes sense, yeah? And please have some questions and interact as necessary. So how do I frame the situation? I think one of the things that I find people doing is really looking back too much. Now, bear with me. Because I think we should look back, but for one reason, and that's to learn. When we look back to blame, like this happened, that happened, the government changed, the tax thing changed, everything changes. Us business owners, we exist and adapt to whatever environment. So what we should do is actually look back, not to blame anybody or set circumstances for the situation we're in, but to learn. And then the important thing, of course, as you frame your current situation, is to bring that learning forward as knowledge. And say, why am I where I am now? What are the key influences to this current situation? Because we do need to establish absolute clarity of the now. Does that make sense? The other thing to do is talk about how the now is impacting on us. Because if somebody's going to change, they've got to have a good reason. So until we establish absolute clarity over the now, why would you change? I think the answer is you probably don't. But when we have got the now, we've also got to explore what tomorrow would, what it would look like. What would we like it to look like? That's the situation. The situation is, I would like to be this. And then what we've got is we've got a gap. So the job of me and coaching is to help people create a strategy to explore the gap. Leads me nicely into the next part of this strategy. This is what we have to do. We have to consider and identify the hazards. Now, what I mean by this are what things can harm me. Remember a hazard, by the way, defined by the HSE, right? It's not something just physiological that can hurt us, but it's economical, it's emotional, it's mental. A hazard, by definition, is something that can cause us harm. The idea of this model is when we look at the current now, what I then do with people is I go, what's the hazard of doing nothing? What's the danger to us? What's the economic gamble to do nothing? Yeah, what's the emotional, mental harm that can happen if we just keep doing things the way we are? And then, of course, we have to look forward and we go, what are the potential hazards to investing more money? Money that what if I borrow money to do something? So we have, does that make sense? We have to do all this. We have to really look at the potential harm of one, the situation that we're in right now, two, of doing nothing, and then three, of doing something. Because all of these have the potential to cause us harm. Now, what I have learned in the world of developing high performance is this. I'll stick my neck out here and be bold, that I don't believe working beyond the end position and finding greatness is possible without risk. I've not seen one example. Not one example. But what I would say, and this is about the risk, this is about the next part, is about the risk. Because what we do need to do is we need to take a risk-preferred approach. Okay? And very often doing something differently is slightly safer than something different. But is differently enough. So we've got the hazards, we identify the hazards. What we do now need to do is we need to risk assessment. What's the likelihood of this happening? So if I do nothing and I keep living in this world of mental heaviness and it's impacting on me, and that happened to me, by the way. So I was suffering from a number of things on a mental level and an emotional level because of strain and trauma and quite a few bits. If I did nothing, I was in real danger of harm. The likelihood of it happening was increasing. So the option of doing nothing was not an option. I hope that makes sense. And you'll have your own bit, whether that be economical, physiological, emotional behaviour. So what we've done, we've looked at the now, we've got this absolutely unquestionable, acute awareness of where we are right now. And we need to be challenged on that. And we need to have a trusted outside source sometimes. Because very often, our view of our world and our behaviour and our choices is flawed, right? It's flawed because it's limited by what we believe. And what I have learned through all this coaching, there's no point talking about this experience without sharing some of this learning, is the achievements of those that I work with. The single biggest restricting factor is self-belief and imagination. That's the truth. It's to have a mindset that dare think past anything you think is possible for yourself. And people surprise the hell out of me all the time. And that's the truth. They absolutely do what's possible beyond my wildest dreams. So it's the job of a coach, and so I think some of this model as well, to have a mindset that matches it. And I just think, can we do that on our own? I'll let you decide. When we are the inhibiting factor to progress, that's where a trusted support or a network of people that will help you make decisions beyond the current position to explore a new world. And remember, when we're in a new world, we're going to have information that we've never had before. We're going to have to make decisions that we've never made before. We're going to have to gamble, possibly, with things that will impact us on a level that we've never had before. That's where we kind of really need to take a risk-preferred approach. Okay? So we've got a situation, we've identified the things that are causing us harm, that have caused us harm. We're going to take that as learning and let that influence our choices as we move forward. We're going to look at the likelihood of this happening. Why are we going to do that? Because that will help us prioritize our approach. Because those things that are going to cause us the most harm and are more likely to happen become our priority. And we shouldn't ignore them, by the way. We shouldn't ignore them. At our peril. That would be crazy. So then, of course, I think, what do I do now? I start to evaluate my options. And I think it would be appropriate now on this fireside, maybe to give you an anecdotal reference to bring some of this alive. So I can't remember the year, but it's been in the press, I'm okay to say it. In Field Street in Kettering, I was in charge of just 2 appliances that turned up at the old cardboard factory. Derelict, it's been derelict for years, 3-storey, it's not there anymore. And when we turned up at night, we were told there were 2 people in the basement, trapped in the basement, derelict factory. So that's the situation. But that's not just the situation. The situation was this, that we can't see a point of entry, it's all locked up. The situation is we can see thick smoke billowing out of this building. And the situation is that we were told that these people lost contact with control as they passed out in the smoke. So they're unconscious in the basement. Now I look at the hazards. Pretty obvious, right? Smoke, which can kill us. The other thing that we believed was the basement was flooded. So we've got some real potential hazards here. We risk assess it and we go, the only way we can save these lives is to commit people into those hazards. So what do? We will all have restrictions and limitations. As business owners, of course, there are economic reasons that we should put safety first, and there are legal reasons we should put safety first. So and I was bound by those. So my options were potentially limited by the constraints of policy and standard operating procedures. But I made a decision. I made a decision that this life was savable. These lives too were savable. So actually, how do you protect yourself from the smoke? Put breathing apparatus on. What self-contained breathing apparatus that is positive pressure that doesn't let the smoke in. There's a good idea. Around in the basement, we normally work with 2. Why don't we send 4 in together so that we've got more people down there? Why don't we absolutely double up the comms? Why don't we take a thermal image camera that can help us get the bit, and so on. And so we did this. Why don't we start at the same time ventilating this building through positive pressure air to get the smoke to escape while we're doing this? That's me evaluating a risk-preferred approach. I hope that makes sense just to bring it alive. Yes, of course. We brought both of them out, both unconscious, both in respiratory arrest, and both of these people survived. So it's quite special. So we're now evaluating our options. This is the options that are going to move us from this space to this space. Now, at this point, I just want to pause and think about the purpose of painting a compelling image of what you want to achieve. What's in it for us to actually paint and create the most compelling image of the end position of something that we want to, where we want to be? This is what it does for us. It provides us with motivation. Right? A goal gives us a reason to do it. Right? The second thing it does is it gives us purpose. It allows us to hone our efforts. And more importantly, it allows us to measure progress. So I think it's really important, the more compelling the image of the outcome, I think the more purposeful you can be. There's my word, I've got it in there. My favourite word as a performance coach, and I beg you to consider this, is purposefulness. How purposeful are you being? At the end of the day, my job is to challenge people's purposefulness. What I mean is, from when you get up in the morning and you leave your house and you step over the threshold of your business, the choices you make, the image that you present, the behaviour that you choose, the decisions that you make, the actions that you take, the people that you communicate with, mix with, are they relevant? Is what you're doing absolutely relevant? Does it have meaning? Will it add value and ultimately impact on this end goal? That's a big one. Ask yourself that. If not, don't do it. Well, why would we be doing that, Graham? Out of naivety? We don't get up in the morning and go, I think I'll do that today because that'll mess stuff up. Of course we don't. They thought that, no, that'd be stupid. No, we do it out of naivety. We do it out of genuine honesty. But challenge yourself. Constantly review the way you're doing stuff, the process in which you're doing it, okay? And that's how I think we need to start to evaluate our options. What's available to us? So, situation, if we stay here, we're going to get hurt. We're going to get mentally hurt, emotionally hurt, economically hurt. And these two are highly likely. So this is not an option. So risk preferred in terms of development, we have to make changes here. What are my options? Now, do we invest? Do we have somebody else? What could I do different? What could I do differently? What do I need to learn? What skills do I need to develop? Ask yourself all these questions. What intervention could I make that will be more purposeful? And the purposeful here is to move from here to here. That's the thing you're considering. What options do I have to move myself from here to here? Consider the purposefulness. Now, something else that I learned. And I'm going to move on now to proofing our strategy, because this is really important. In 2018, after spending 30 years in the world of performance coaching at Loughborough's High Performance Centre as a fully funded Olympic and Paralympic coach, I was approached by a disability athlete called Jonathan Bruno, MBE, and 3 times world champion, Paralympic champion, etc. At this point, he had a silver medal in Rio, and he had a silver world medal, and he also had a cast on his foot because he had just come out of surgery from having his Achilles tendon sewn back together on his disability leg. And he said, "Great, I need a change in my circumstances. I need to recover from this, but I actually want to be in Tokyo." And I said, "Not a chance. I've got a reputation to uphold here. This would be madness." But of course, that lasted about a minute. And then I kicked in and went, "Wow, can you imagine this?" And I have absolutely no idea how to do this. I've never coached a disability athlete in my life. And that's an interesting one, of course, because they're actually no different at all from seemingly able-bodied athletes. We all have strengths and weaknesses. It's actually no different. They just have different factors that limit those strengths and weaknesses and the symmetry or asymmetry of their body. Anyway. So we engage in this, but one of the first things that I thought about was my next point. And of course, this is the people. By that, I mean, do I have all of the skills, the knowledge, the time, and experience and expertise to recover this Paralympian from a snapped Achilles tendon? Hell no. So why would I do this on my own? So the very first thing I then did, and I do this with business, we do it with businesses on the podium all the time. Who do you need? Who's in your team? What people do you need to deliver your success? Have you got the right people? What do they look like? Is it a skill? Is it an expertise? Is it experience? Is it an attitude? Is it a personality? Is it the way they manage themselves, the way they look? Is it the way they communicate? How many? We can't do this on our own. So the very first thing I did together was put together a team of absolute experts that knew more than I ever knew. Global experts. And of course, it was industrialist Andrew Carnegie that once said, of course, on my epitaph, it will read, "Here lie a man who was wise enough to surround himself with people greater than I." I'll leave you to think about that one. What a great thought that is. So that's what we did. We created this team of absolute beyond the wildest dream of experts. So what people do you need? And don't look at your people, by the way, just in your team. Because there's people. People. When we think about collaboration, one thing that I think about all the time is I have never met the most impactful person that I need to collaborate. Because that way I never stop looking. Who's the one person? There's somebody out there that will fundamentally change my world. To think about that when you think about people. So what's your people? And then, of course, we need to consider the resources. We need these particular resources to bring that life-threatening scenario under control. We needed breathing apparatus, we needed fire engines, we needed fans, we needed people. We needed certain time, we needed equipment, we needed thermal image cameras. With Jonathan, we needed physiotherapy, we needed diets, we needed technology. So we need all these things. So when we look at a business, and I kind of look at Beyond the Podium now, what do we need at Beyond the Podium as we're developing this? We need certain technology, we need equipment, we need certain time, and the resource of people, which we've done. It might be policies and procedures, but think about the resources that you're going to need. And the reason we should do all this in the early planning stage of strategy and change is why would we go full steam ahead and then just run into walls that we could have foreseen? Oh, that's called crazy. But of course, we should review this. This isn't just the start of something, this is the start of anything. Even when we're up and running in your business, do it again now. Spend the time and give it, go through this systematically. Have I got the resources that will deliver me from this to this dreamland? What do I need? Okay, when you've got the resources, the next thing you need to do is organise them. Organise them into an action plan. Who thinks that people stumble across greatness? I don't know of one example. I know people that wake up in the morning and think they're great, but that's another story. Listen, nobody stumbles across greatness. It's very carefully thought about and it's strategically planned and reviewed. So actually, now we've considered our options for move from here to here. We know why we're going to do it, know what we're going to focus on, because we cannot allow these to affect us this hard. And this is likely to happen. So we're going to choose this option, and I've got these people and these resources. I now need to organise these into a strategic plan of action. How am I going to implement the resources? What are the people going to do? What people do need in organisations to be purposeful is this. They need absolute, unquestionable clarity over their roles. They need defined responsibilities of that role and any accountability that comes with it. Does that make sense? And what they really need as well is clarity over any parameters of authority. What decisions am I allowed to make? What decisions should I be making? And why are some people asking permission for decisions that they should make? Do you know what top performers need? They need to be given the freedom to give themselves permission to make big decisions. But of course, we can only do that if we have people who have a clear purpose, who have the confidence of mastery in their role, that they can do it to the highest possible standard, and they have clarity over what I've just said. Responsibility around parameters of authority, and then the accountability that goes with it. Then when you've got that, step back for goodness sake and watch them go crazy for you. They still need leadership, by the way. High performance leadership is very different. That's a story for another day, but give that some thought. If you're a high performing business, what does that leadership look like? It's very different. You know why? Because we're dealing with people who are experts. But experts need challenge. High performance leadership is not about telling somebody how to do something. It's about making it very clear what you want them to do and then trusting them to do it, but keeping an eye on it and challenging it. Ask those stupid questions. Completely not, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? And it's not doubting them, it's to check themselves to make sure that they are being purposeful. Okay, so we've got the people, we've got the resources, and we now organise this into a strategic plan. That's what we should do now, of course. We should observe the implementation of the plan. Skillfulness is not having a theory. Skillfulness is not having models. Skillfulness is not having some idea of a process. Skillfulness is defined by the ability to practically apply it all and get a result. That doesn't just happen. We have to observe that. It's the responsibility of a leader to observe. It's the responsibility of a leader to challenge it. Even when it's going well. Yeah, I don't want to step on people's toes. Just step on people's toes. Create an environment that's safe, psychologically safe. Get people to understand why you're challenging what you do. It's to keep yourself on track. Yeah? I hope that makes sense. So we need to constantly review the practical application of what we're doing and how we're choosing to do it. And then, of course, what we do need to do is we need a feedback system. Feedback's, what's in it for us to feedback? What's in it for us to feed back to people at startup? What about people? What are we feeding back? People have the opportunity to develop. This is a great motivational tool, right? By the way, what's the one reason, what's the one actual driver why people do stuff? Because they want to. I'm really sorry to burst the bubble of any dictatorial authoritarian leaders that I'm not sure I've seen in the industry. But people do not do stuff because you tell them to. I'm so sorry to slap that on you today. People do stuff because they want to. And providing feedback. But people are inspired and driven and motivated by a sense of purpose. And if they believe what they're doing is contributing to the success of this journey, that motivates them. So you're missing a trick if we're not feeding back. And how often now do we just feed back on the negative? We kind of created this mad fast world where I think we're starting to lose sight of praise. And there is some brain science behind this, by the way. This isn't just a nice to do thing. Great job, by the way. Thanks. No, actually, tell me why I did a great job. We talked about the meeting this morning. You came to the meeting this morning. I just want to say, really well done. I love the way you welcomed everybody. Oh, thanks. Yeah, but you know what I really liked? I loved how clear it was. I loved how you presented. I loved how you left some space for people to think. I loved how you brought people into the room. That's what am I doing here? This is going to the gym for your brain. This is actually taking your brain to the gym. Because we know that when we create pathways, giving feedback like that and highlighting the specific insights will keep us doing it. And if we keep doing it and tracking the same way, guess what happens? There is evidence that there is thickening of the neurons in our brain. There is an improvement in the synaptic connection. What's that going to create? Purposeful practice, meaningful practice, that we're going to do stuff that is actually making a difference. And that inspires the people because they're motivated by the sense of purpose, that they're actually making the difference. So make sure you feedback. The other thing, of course, is we need to feedback on the resources, maybe, the data. What is the data telling us? I bloody hate data. The fact that you've got a business partner who drill loves it. Oh my God, data, listen back some figures. I'm not great, let's have a look at it. But it's so important because that's the feedback we need. Is this working? Is this actually happening? Is our choice of action going to deliver the outcome? So we do need to feedback on the data. Okay, what are the feedback? How often do you get feedback from your customers, your clients, the bank? Does it matter? I think it matters. Because at the end of the day, fundamentally, change is essential. We constantly are an evolution of ourselves. So change is not an option. You can't stand still. So actually, we should constantly be reviewing this. And it's the feedback that will help drive the direction of the change. In the absence of feedback, yeah, see which way the wind blows. Is that purposeful? Possibly not. Possibly not. I just want to share this quote. Fantastic. It's from James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, multi-million selling book, of course. And I absolutely adore it because I talk about purposefulness and how successful we're being and what we're choosing. And he says, make sure that every one of your actions is a vote for the person you want to be. That's beautiful, right? And the reason I like this as well is because I want to share this thought. One of the greatest teams on the planet, I know we can debate this all day, but the stats are beyond any comprehension. Of course, are the New Zealand All Blacks. Don't worry if you're not a sports fan. It's we're talking left their shores in 1905, and they have a fluctuating win rate constantly between sort of 84, 87%. Steve Hanson's just been the manager, the coach for 19 years, and his win rate over 2 decades was 92%. Just unparalleled. What's the relevance? Why am I telling you this? Because it was their lawyer and now great speaker and author of the book Belonging to the Court, Owen Eastwood, that came up with the formula that said successive performance equals ability plus behaviour. And I couldn't agree more. Why would I not share this? While we're reviewing our processes, while we're reviewing our choices and our action plans and the hazards and all the rest of it, make sure you review the behaviour, your behaviour and all of the people that are associated with your business and what you're trying to achieve. Why? Because it makes a difference. What Owen was saying in his formula is not enough to have knowledge. It's not enough to be talented. It's not enough to have experience and expertise. People in high performance worlds need to behave in a way that reflects and represents the level of their ability. And how many times have you heard it? Are people buying your service or are they buying you? I answer, no, they buy you. They do buy you. And the other thing that we never miss, make sure that you connect on an emotional level. Yeah, but it's not me, it's a product. Then make sure your product is something that has an emotional connection to the person. I see people smiling away here. We just landed in the room, by the way. But it's so important that they obviously need to listen to you. All right, but it's so important, all right? Create the emotional connection because that's what people do. So I think look at the habits. That's so again, not sure that we do that. Can I open this to some questions at this point? I mean, I could stand here all day and add some stuff, but I'd love to open it to any questions about this, or of course my own story and experiences in terms of the business coaching and developing with leadership teams, etc. Please, anyway.
No, I would agree.
Please, my man.
Some of the things that I hear most often is, but that's the way we've always done it. And there's the idea of fight and flight.
Yeah.
How do you get people out of that? And then there was a bit when you talk about that model.
Yeah.
That just made me think about that. And like I said, the most common, two of the most common things, that's the way we've always done it, or fight and flight.
Okay.
How do you mitigate that?
Thank you. Good question. Okay. So here's the reason that people like doing it their way. Okay, and it's to do with fight or flight. So we are, I happen to know this, of course, Richard, because I spent about 18 months getting a level 5 diploma in stress management, because I was fascinated by the impact of stress on performance, very significant, by the way. So we as human beings are negatively wired. That's an absolute fact. What does that mean? So we're negatively wired to preserve ourselves. The fight or flight response that sits in our reptilian brain has one purpose only, just one: survival. What's the relevance then to your question? The relevance is this: do you know why people like doing it their way? Because it's safe. I am under no threat here because I know this stuff works and I know I'm safe and okay. And if I do something different, the fear's there. Yeah, but what's the cost? What will impact on me? What? Oh my God, no, I'm not doing it. We are not designed as human beings to go saber-tooth tiger. Give me a cuddle. No, we're designed to run like hell from it. So, allow me to give you a couple of things to think about. What Richard actually said when he said, people like to do, I like doing it, why am I want to share the next 4 points of research on human wavelength. This might help you with an answer. The second, anybody thoughts? What's the second most common wavelength? If I like doing it right my way, is number 1. What's the second? What's in it for me? So you want me to do something different? Oh, but there's something in it for me. Okay, I might do. Yeah. So can I show somebody what's in it for me? There's a thought, Richard. The third one, of course, in terms of human wavelength, is this. This could be great for me. Oh, if you can make it great for them, probably going to buy a couple, aren't they? And the fourth one, of course, is making me feel good about myself. If we can look at change and hit one of those wavelengths, I mean, if we can create change where people think they're doing it the way they want to do it, you're on the money. If we can create change that gives people the belief that there's something in it for them, God forbid that this could be really good for them, actually make me feel good about myself, you're proper on the money. I hope that helps, Richard. The other thing, of course, that is fundamentally keeping us there is the fear. Now, I don't know whether anybody's seen the Kubler-Ross change curve. Don't worry, I'm not going to digress too much, but I'm going to give you just 4 key points. So Kubler-Ross is the actual defines really research, the actual real emotions that people go through when they're thinking about or facing with change. The first one is shock. The next one's denial, and then of course there's frustration, depression, and so on, and it comes out. Now, if we stick this into 4 areas, how do we reduce the shock, Richard? And this is the point. I like doing it this way. We don't need to do it a different way. If you can find out as much information as possible before you even talk about the change. And what I mean by that is what's in it for you? What's the possible outcome? How much is it going to cost? Who's it going to affect? 5 questions and get lists and lists of these questions. What? Page of what questions? Page of where questions? Page of who questions? Page of how? And a page of when. Trust me, you can come up with them. Can you imagine having the discussion about doing something different with that level of certainty in terms of the answers? Right. The reason people don't is because we know research says that people act and behave and make decisions as a direct consequence to their emotional state. I like doing it this way, you said, Richard. My emotional state's good here because I'm safe. Where's my emotional state when I don't know the outcome or I think it could be negative to me? Because remember, I'm going to think negative because I'm wired negative. Well, you can act differently. You can act with a resistance. You can be in denial that it's the right thing. You can be fearful, so you're going to sit back. What actually stimulates our current emotional state? A cognitive stimulus. Something we see, something we hear, a situation, a set of circumstances. So that's what we do, Richard. We create a compelling image, remember. One, that says this could be good for me. Two, this could be great for me. Or three, this could make me feel good about myself. And by the way, so information is the first step, Richard. The second step is support. If I'm going to step over this line, I don't want to do it on my own. You won't be. I'm with you. We're with you. They're with you. He's with you. She's with you. This is with you. These are the resources, remember. We've got this. It'll help you do it. But then the next thing that they'll need is as we enter into a new world, Richard, where we're making decisions that we've never had. You just said we're seeing things for the first time. There's the fear. What do people need now? Direction. That's leadership. You need to keep people on track. You need to show them the way. Don't limit it, but we need to give them the direction. That's our responsibility. To lead the way. To create this compelling image and vision, share the vision. Great leaders have great visions. A lot of the mistakes they make is they fail to share them. And that's where the uncertainty comes from. If people have unquestionable clarity over what it is we're trying to achieve and what's in it for us to do it, it reduces that, Richard. I hope that helps. And the other thing, of course, is practice and practice and practice. So the fourth stage, by the way, you probably know, is reinforcement. Because actually, when we are triggered to see things a certain way, our life is defined by our learning and our bias. 85% of each and every one of our days requires zero conscious thought. What? Bloody hell. Am I allowed to say bloody hell? So what does that mean? Well, it means, Richard, that we behave in a certain way that is safe because fundamentally as animals, we're wired to stay safe. This is the challenge of great leadership. And working past the end position is to be the trusted support. So make sure you've got as much information as possible. Make sure you put support network in place. Be the person that gives the direction. And reinforce. Because under pressure, or at speed, or in face of adversity, guess what people do? They run back to their safe space. Change doesn't happen because you tell it to or start to do things. Change stays and has an impact because we keep doing it. And speed. Me and Teresa have thought long and hard about this. In the change phase, as we start to change people, I'm probably just going on a bit now beyond the actual question. I do that, shut me up at any point, but I think it's valuable. You decide. Don't spend too much, this might shock you, don't spend too much time collaborating. Why did you say that? I would spend more time iterating. I would spend more time just trying stuff and learning from it. Try it, learn, and stop it. That didn't work. Right, try it, learn, stop. Try it, well, that worked. Let's go again. Does that make sense? Just try stuff in a risk-preferred way. That answers the question. Think again. Any other questions? Yes, the challenge. No, we all good? Any questions?
None online, unfortunately.
Take it.
Any answers?
I'm just so quick.
Okay. Have you got something? No, listen, it's been a pleasure. I think even when there's one or two of you, let me just add this last time, right? Let me add just this last bit in the absence of questions. It would be wrong because I kind of chose to share this, of course, that's part of 4 decades. You can share a million things, study all week. But I hope that's been relevant and purposeful for you. I hope there's some tools to think about and reflect on, and you're welcome to it. That's why we share it with you. What I would say, there's a couple of bits here, okay? Think about behaving the behaviours of others and remember that what we permit, we promote. And in our businesses, we look long and hard at that. If it's not right in terms of culture, and people talk about culture, it's the old culture, was it Teresa? Culture eats strategy for breakfast or whatever. And I agree. When we talk about this culture, what is culture, by the way? Well, it's the way we do stuff, repeatedly do stuff, that's what it is. It's the common practice, it's the way we behave. But how do we manage culture? By effectively managing the cultural drive. But what's driving your culture? Well, there's only 2 of us. That's a culture. There's only 2 of us, but we've got a very clear culture. We've got a clear culture of engaging with people as human beings in the real world. What does that mean? This isn't some theory. This is real world stuff. We're going to talk to people on a human level where it's going to actually make a difference to their business. Everybody does that, right? Doesn't it? Okay, good. I hope they do. But that's our culture. We're going to make sure that every communication, that how we communicate with each other, is part of the culture that we want people to see, how we want to exist. And by the way, just so you know what we do with other people, and we get in a boardroom like this, and we proper roll our sleeves up, I can tell you now. And we're known to punch quite hard. Because we have to, right, Richard? Because people are stuck in their way, they're fearful. And they're not going to cuddle the saber tooth. We're going to run from fear. And there's fear of the uncertainty of what will happen if we try something different. But we do it ourselves. We challenge each other all the time. People have seen it. I've even seen it in public, and I have to go, just remember there's people walking their dogs. But yeah, you've got to challenge the status quo. Keep doing that. Make that part of your culture. All right. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Well, brilliant. Lots for me to think about on that one as well. Yes, I am change averse. Yes, that gentleman over there would agree. Just a quick one before I take you all offline. We have another event on Thursday, the 10th of September, making your business unique with Laura Dolphin from Dolphin Outsourcing Limited. So please look on the website for the usual details and sign up for them details. For that event, it's going to be another good one. But once again, I'd like to say thank you for that. Yeah, I'm sitting over there nodding, and Richard was looking at me doing also. Brilliant. Many thanks for everybody online. I hope you found it as engaging and as inspiring as I did, and we did. Thanks very much, and goodbye.